Well, the truth is that, like I was saying, it's layered. So in many senses, again, you're bringing as many resonators for what you're looking to accomplish into that arena. So if it just happens to not be the right day, then maybe you just have on the right color and maybe you just have on the right scent. That's how the whole thing is designed anyway, is that there is actually a correspondence and an aspect of anything that you're trying to do. But again, I used to always get told by a gentleman who taught me a lot of things, especially about my body, is that you don't want to get crazy about this, because it could be your worst enemy. And he says, look, you're getting crazy about this. And this means that when it starts to become unnatural, when it starts to become borderline sorcery, then you know that it's gone too far, because there is a part of this that you have to be able to move in that zone and know the flow. But when it comes to things like there's a gentleman that put together an excellent series, not only music, but also a book that goes with that. And it's called Mathmagical Music Productions. People can Google for that. And the gentleman put 10 or 15 years into understanding frequency, and then also putting together some amazingly harmonic tracks in order to get your mind right and get your sleep together and those kind of things. But in the publication that he presented, he brought so much knowledge of understanding what goes on in music. And because everything is sound, everything is wave, everything is vibration, everything is energy, what we're talking about is not necessarily having to go and study all these different tangent subjects. We're talking about going into the master subjects. So we can't confuse this at all for what goes on in school, where they're teaching you a history that they want you to learn, and they're teaching you math that you're never going to use. We're talking about where you go and you still get the knowledge of things that are going to help you, but it does almost feel like a school settings, because it requires you to memorize things and retain something. And I think what happens is, because school is so boring at times, we get this phobia of going back or feeling anything like that. It's like once you become an entrepreneur, you kind of like shy away from schedules and getting up at a certain time. Even if you do that every day, if someone tells you, hey, I need you to be there, you're like, I don't know, this feels like work again. I don't want to get involved in that. So there's this part of us, again, that is one way, and train how to see things one way. And then there's this new part of us that has now to see things on a multidimensional level. And when I say also about, that it's not all just the good stuff all the time, it's also to keep you real, to keep you aware in this reality about what's really happening, to know that the clock is ticking. And the connection to that is that term unmovable, actually, which is the name that the ancients gave to God, or what they call the supreme being. In their language, that interprets to us in English as unmovable. And the reason for this is because there was a prototype of how the archetype being really moves. So there's a part of them that is unmovable. It's very easy to see it as a clock. And that part has to remain stable. That's what they call the monad. It's like it has to always be the way that it is, because if anything gets messed up down there, it's going to have to reboot itself and become that again and start over. And then there's this part of it also that is movable. And this is the paradox of our reality. Like we find that, we're good and bad. We're flesh and spirit, and light and dark. And there's a lot of paradoxes that exist here. And this is a part of the paradox. You're to be unmovable, unshakable, but also flexible. And this is why the prototype of that is actually the diagram of what Saturn looks like, because it's like a clock. There's a part of it that is not moving. That's like the stationary hub and house of the clock. And then there's this thing that's moving time. And that's why Saturn became known as the father of time, because it's spinning the galaxy. But, we had to get on a tangent, because they actually found out that what we're calling Saturn is Sirius. And there's a lot that goes on in occultism. But the thing that you need to hone in on the most is that what's being required of you is that hyperdimensional aspect of things, to where you need to be unmovable, firm in what you're doing, but also flexible to be able to realize what the person is experiencing and what aspect you really need to come at them with this. And, so if you're like all firm and, it's like you give it the way that this is, and like they talk about some of these yoga techniques, it's like you can't even play this music and you can't do any kind of adding, because it's going to be just like they did it 1,000 years ago. And it's like, okay, I get that, but I think we can enhance it. So so it's requiring that. That's kind of all this whole thing has that same flavor to it. We realize there's these ancient traditions and cultures and things, but we also realize that they're in bad need of a facelift. So
Hey, it's the adaptability word.
Yes.
That's our word here. Be super flexible, adaptable.
Yeah. And
Right?
and the
That's
other
what-
thing is just know how to call in your energies when necessary. So when you need to be flexible, then you come in with your flexibility. Your immovability is always there. It's it's the foundation that everyone is standing on. So it's like anytime a person comes with one finite rule to rule everything, one word that's going to rule them all, it's just not like that. It
It's not like
requires
that.
you
Oh,
because
should I quit trying to buy immovable.com on my other screen here?
hey, do it. Hey, somebody's still going to need to learn that lesson. So it's just like there's so many spaces to cover. And that's why I say, we're all at our stations because each person, when you see it like it's a ship, this is a craft. Earth is a ship. It's moving around and it's quite large, but we're all tending this. And each person has a different aspect of putting in this because a lot of times, how I start seeing this in order to just, again, to clear out energy, clear out vibration and stay in harmony. We get these people running around the matrix and we have such a big issue with them. And it could be because they're not listening to the conscious message. But when you go to the bathroom and you have to sit on that toilet seat in a public restroom, if it happens to be that person that just happens to know how to clean that toilet seat and know how to clean that sink and keep everything sanitary, but then you're all mad because they don't want to listen to this conscious message that you have to give. You're still unaware of how that person is actually helping you in your life. And the ripple effects of it's a big thing because there's so many different things. Like if you want to get up, see, the ancients, they did everything. That's why they knew that it was better to work in a unit. Because imagine, you get up, now you got to go catch the food, whatever it's going to be, where we go pick some berries or whatever. And then we got to do the entertainment too. And then we got to get stuff ready for when it's cold, when that season comes. And then we got to make some clothes. And so imagine just trying to do all of what is normally has to be done in life all by yourself. And so that's why for the ancients, because in those close-knit tribes, they knew that every day. So the goal was to get more people involved, to get more kids to start getting more things so we can expand. So now it's the same way, but we forget that we're still in a family. When you go to the store and you buy your stuff and you get your gas and all these different things, there's thousands, if not everyone is involved in some way or another of making sure that you're getting that. So for some reason, we don't like these people. And that's why I keep drilling on that, because we've started to develop this hatred towards what we call unconscious people. And in that, we've become no better than Illuminati or whatever. The goal here is not that everyone is already fixed and ready to go and we're all expanding, because if that was the case, there's no need for me to be here. Then I just would be enjoying the party. I call it the day after ascension. What we said is that there was some seeds that still needed that entire process of their growth and their tending and manicuring, and that we were being called to do that. And for doing that, it's just like when you have a child, you learn so much about the responsibilities. You learn so much about yourself and the different phases that you grow through. So when we exclude ourselves from that, then we're only excluding ourselves from our growth. So that's what we know, and that's what we should remember. And so I'm always looking to jump in. Now, also, it doesn't mean, and here's another big thing, it doesn't mean to go jump right downtown in the club with them. A lot of people can misinterpret what I'm saying. Well, then that means that I need to be there with them. Yeah, let me go down there. And then just totally get pummeled by a lower vibratory frequency, come home and just have anti-thoughts. Because the thing is that we can assist, but know to what level you can do this. And what happens with us all the time is that we realize that just like this conscious broadcaster, you can really reach thousands of people versus one person at a time. But we always know one person is one world. So when we're talking about changing worlds, changing one person is changing a world. It's already done. Now, if we want the entire world to change, that is going to depend on you. That's going to depend on how dynamic you are. If you're still speaking English trying to do that, there's a whole other percentage of the world that ain't even going to get what you're talking about. So it requires you to, hey, go back and get in your toolkit. And what I set myself now to do, I call it astral goals, because I know there's going to be a time to where our power that we experience on the spiritual side of things is going to begin to manifest into this physical reality. So what I look to do is I look to get at a stage to where I'm causing the actual phenomena related to healing from multiple levels. So that way I don't got to come at a person with English and talking to them and trying to articulate the words and put them in the right order so that they can believe something that they're still going to have to experience anyway. Rather than coming with, something to where they can say, you know what, that's how I want to get into this. Because that's how we all work. We see these mentors, and then what we believe we can achieve is based on the mentor. So when someone comes and sets an entirely new bar, like, hey, you know what, I can throw some electrical prana from the hand, and if I touch certain areas of a person's body, it heals them. And I'm going to prove that. See, because the thing is that now people are like, well, prove it. So, okay, well, instead of us thinking, well, I don't have to prove myself to anybody, get to the next level of your own consciousness and say, now I'm going to start coming up with proof. Look, I got a camera on, there's a person here. And that's why there's Qigong videos now and Neigong videos with men showing you, women showing you the power that can come from the body and setting things on fire. And for people that seeing is believing, which makes 98 to 99% of the population, it at least clicks for them for one moment that, okay, this is not X-Men. I know this guy's not lying. So something I'm missing out on here. And this is the big thing that the conscious broadcaster can always look forward to. People love hearing about themselves. The whole selfie generation has people in love with themselves. And there is a point where selfishness turns into selflessness. It turns into altruism because you realize that the height, and this is the last point of where it clicks, the height of what you can do for this reality is still directly tied into what you can do for yourself. And if you don't have the motivation that it takes to power through an entire mountain, then you got to go and find that motivation. There is a big part of the conscious broadcaster's life to where they have to learn how to self-motivate themselves, to power themselves. And the great thing is that we're in a vehicle that was designed to do just that. If you love yourself, you care about yourself, you give yourself positive reinforcement. I got this little thing, it plays all the time. Hey, oh man, you're doing great. Oh man, you look great. Look at you. Man, you've come so far. Man, remember where you were? This is just amazing. You got to keep that installed. It's like your posse or your theme music. You got to keep that going. And the reality that sometimes you're powering through sludge. You may walk downtown and everyone's feeling the flux, storms going on and all this happening. So you have to maintain that power center. You also have to, many times, keep it hermetically sealed. That means not letting anyone throw you off because they said something or didn't serve up your food right. And then be able to be on demand with that energy. And what this is going to do is it's going to put you into more spaces. The reason why you're doing all this, because that's what that whole selfishness side and how it turns to selfless, is people still ask themselves the question like, well, why am I risking myself? Why am I doing this? And it's because it's directly crediting to a system that you don't have to do check and balances on and check every single night about your progress and what's going to come to you because you're making these simple actions and you're sending them out into the universe as vibrations and frequencies. And the universe as a quantum mainframe is then responding back to you with what you're giving out. So at any point then, if something is making you hate, if something is causing you to shut down, you have to begin to analyze that something as needing to be weaned out of your process and your toolkit that you're practicing on yourself.